So if our theme is talking about setting the mood and showing our feelings in our artwork, let's have some fun just showing lots of different feelings. Let's talk about the big 5 emotions. These are the 5 that all the other emotions can kind of be described as a combination of some of these. So if you're not familiar with the big 5 emotions, maybe you've seen the movie Inside Out. In the movie Inside Out, there's 5 emotional characters inside Riley's head: joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust. So what we're going to do today is we're going to just put all 5 of those emotions onto one page in their own little space. And we're going to talk about 3 different ways that an artist can change things in order to show a certain emotion. We're going to talk about size, we're going to talk about shape, and we're going to talk about color. And for each of our 5 different emotions, we're going to have one color of a marker and one color of a crayon that we're going to use together to make our emotional pictures. Now, for the purpose of today's lesson, we want to draw the same thing 5 times, but draw it in different ways to show those different feelings. So what I'm going to draw is the sun, and I'm going to draw it 5 different ways. So the first way, I'm going to think about joy. All right, so the first emotion we're going to talk about is joy. And what I want you to do is take just a moment to act out what it feels like when you're really joyful. So we need to think, what would something be that could happen that would make me feel really joyful? How would you feel if I told you I just bought us tickets to Disney World and we're gonna go to Disney? Yay! Woohoo! I want you to notice 3 things. First, when we got really super excited and joyful, we got bigger. Second, I want you to notice the shape. Not just stay in the same shape, but reaching out. Third, let's talk about color. What color do you think is the most joyful, bright, exciting color? Yellow, because that makes us think about sunshine and daisies. So if yellow is the happiest color, we're gonna start our joyful sun with an orange marker. Wait, what? I thought you just got done saying we need yellow. Yes, we will color it with yellow, but we don't want the outlines to be the same color as the sunshine. So as we color it, so we're gonna have the outlines one color and the inside colored with a different color. So we're going to use an orange marker to draw the outline, and then we're going to use a yellow crayon to color it in. You'll see what I mean here in just a second. Now, so I'm going to start with an orange marker, and I want to make, should I make the joyful sun really big or really small or in the middle? That's right, we should make it huge. We just talked about how you jump for joy and you reach way out. So I'm going to make a nice big circle with my orange marker. I'm not going to color it orange. I'm just going to draw the circle with the orange. And then I'm going to have the rays of light reach way out. Notice that I didn't just make that a line. I made that a big reaching out rectangle. Now, don't make it so big it fills up the whole page, because we're going to need some room to draw the other guys too. But I'm just making those rays of light, instead of just as lines, I'm making them as big, long, reaching out rectangles. Now notice here, because I'm a little close to the edge of my page, I'm just going to have a couple of these that crop off the edge. That means you can imagine that it keeps going, but it's, you know, my paper ended before the line ended. So this does keep going off my page. That's called cropping. And so you can do that if you have yours you know, closer to the edge, or if it's closer to the middle, then maybe you can fit the whole thing. Once we've drawn that with a marker, we are going to color it in with our crayon. And the reason we're doing it with both like this is because we do want the outlines to stand out, and we also want the color to show the emotion, right? So This sunshine is showing our emotion, our joyful emotion, in 3 different ways. Number 1, it's huge, just like you get big when you're joyful. Number 2, it's shape, it's reaching out. And number 3, it's color, it's bright yellow. And then the orange works with the yellow to help emphasize that brightness. Take your time coloring neatly inside the lines. You don't want to scribble it, you don't want to leave empty gaps. You want it to look nice and shiny and bright. Now, in the inside part here, if you wanted to draw a happy face, you could. You would do that with the orange marker before you color with a crayon, and then you would take your time to color around it. In the interest of saving time and being able to put all 5 emotions into this one lesson here, I'm going to skip drawing a face on these like I usually do. One of the things that's always really fun to do when I do this in the classroom is to look at different people's faces and tell my students to make faces at each other. And oops, I was pushing so hard I broke my crayon. Anyway, I love to have my students look at each other's faces when they're making faces, making joyful faces, making sad faces and things like that, so they can see how the face changes when you've got different emotions. But really, for the purpose of this project, we're not really concerned about what the face does when you have different feelings. We're more concerned about how size and shape and color can show you, the viewer, the feeling of that sun. That looks like a bright, joyful, happy, exciting sunshine, doesn't it? Now that we're done making our joyful sun, let's move on and talk about sadness. I want you to think. I want you to act this out with me. Pretend for a minute. What would you do? What would you look like? How would you act? How would you feel if you were sad? So let's think for a moment and see if there's something we can pretend, something that would make us feel very sad. My friend is moving. My friend who's been my best friend for 10 years, he's moving. And I'll never get to see him again. Notice that when you're sad, you get smaller. And when we think about shape, you curl up into a ball, don't you? And then let's talk about color. When we talk about the color of sadness, why do we use blue to show sadness? Now, a lot of people say because, you get sad on rainy days and rain is blue, right? No, it isn't. Rain is not blue. Oh, wait, rain is water, and water is blue, right? No, it isn't. Water is not blue. See, I have a water bottle right here. It's not blue. It's clear. It's clear. It has no color. So why do we color water blue when we color water in our pictures? Well, when we see pictures of the ocean, which is water, the ocean looks blue, doesn't it? That's actually not because the water itself is blue. That's because the sky up above it is blue and it reflects the sky, and we see a reflection of the sky on the surface of the water. But yeah, that is why we use blue for sadness, because we associate the color blue with things that are cold and wet. And even if water isn't actually blue, that's the way we think about the color blue. And so that's why we use the color blue for sadness. So, like we said, we're going to need a blue crayon to color our sad sun. And I'm going to use a purple marker to draw the outlines. Remember, we said that when you are sad, you shrink down, you get smaller. So I'm going to make my sad sun a lot smaller. Now, for the rays of light, I don't want them reaching out like we were in our joyful sun. remember the shape of sadness. When you're sad, you're curling up into a ball. So I really want the rays of light to be curling up around my, my sunshine here. And then I want to color it blue. I want to color it blue. Now, I'm going to use kind of a light blue here. I'm not pushing too hard with my blue because I want to still be able to see those purple lines. If I push too hard with my blue, then it's going to be so dark that it covers up those purple lines, and I really want to be able to see those purple lines. That one's super quick because it's so small. Next, we're going to talk about anger, and I want us to pretend we're angry. I want us to act this out together. Think about something that would make you super, super angry, like maybe if your little brother broke your Nintendo Switch. I'm so angry. Notice a couple of things. 3 things: size, shape, and color. That's what we're talking about for all of these, right? What happens to your size? You hunker down, you make yourself smaller. But do you make yourself as small as you did when you were sad and curling up into a ball? No, not quite that small. Second, let's talk about shape. When you get angry, you poke your elbows out, those sharp, pointy elbows out. And your knees, too, you bend your knees and poke those out. So when we draw that, we're going to want to use some sharp, pointy shapes. And third, why do we use the color red to show anger? Because when you're angry, your face turns red. Why is that, though? Why does your face turn red when you're angry? It's because when you tense up and pull on all those muscles in your face, it pushes blood into your skin, and blood is red. And that's why your face turns red when you're angry. So I've got 2 colors here for anger. I've got red, that's the color I'm going to color it with, so I have a red crayon. And I'm going to make my outlines with black for this sun, so I have a black marker. And I think those 2 colors will work really well together to make an angry sun. Now, remember, size. Anger is going to be a little smaller than normal, but it's not going to be as small as sadness. But before I just go willy-nilly draw a circle, I need to think about the shape, because remember we talked about pokey, pointy elbows, and so we want some sharp corners. So I'm not actually going to make a circle for my angry sun. I'm actually going to make a square. Notice that that square is bigger than sadness, but it's nowhere close to as big as joy. And for the rays of light reaching out, again, I want them to be pokey, pointy. So instead of having rectangles, I'm going to have triangles. See how they're pointier, they're sharper? Because anger, not only do you poke your elbows out when you're angry, but also it's a very sharp feeling. It hurts. It feels like needles stabbing into you. Anyway, so I've drawn that with a black marker, and then I'm going to color it in with a red crayon. And I love this combination of using markers for outlines and crayons to color things in, because you really get nice bold outlines this way and nice bold colors inside your shapes this way. And also, for little hands like yours, it sometimes helps make it easier to color inside the lines if you have nice thick marker lines instead of little skinny pencil lines. So anyway, there's a square-shaped sun. That's a little awkward, a little different from normal, but doesn't that make it look a lot more angry? And let's take a moment before we move on to just look at these 3 that we have so far and see that this sun, the first one we did, the yellow sun, looks really joyful and excited and happy, even though there's not a happy face on it. And then this blue sun looks very sad and lonely and depressed because it's small and blue, and because of the way it's curling up around itself. And then this one, because of how sharp and pokey and pointy it is, and because of how red it is, looks very angry. Everyone's favorite emotion, disgust. Yay. Ew. Now, let's practice that. Let's perform that. Let's act that out. Let's think about something that would really be gross and make us. Ugh. So, how about this? What if you're sitting next to your cousin at the dinner table, and she throws up all over your plate? Notice a couple of things. Number one, your size. When I'm standing like this, I'm wider, but when I turn sideways, I'm not as wide this way, am I? Well, maybe some of us are. But no, we're not as wide this way as we are this way. The other thing is the shape. When you're really disgusted by something, you wiggle a lot, don't you? But are those wiggles big wiggles? No, they're little wiggles. Third, why do we use green? Why do we use the color green to show disgust, grossness? I know some of you are thinking that because broccoli is green. Ugh. Yeah, except that there are some people who like broccoli. And there are some people who like spinach. And there are some people who like to eat their vegetables. And also, more importantly, vegetables are actually good for you. Can you think of something that's really not good for you that's green? Yeah, we just talked about throw up, right? Sometimes when you throw up, it's green. And boogers are green. And here's the thing. If you have anything green coming out of your body, it's because you're sick, right? If you're throwing up green, it's because you're sick. If you've got boogers that are green, you're sick, right? Sometimes boogers are more brownish, yellowish. Yeah, you're all right. Green boogers, you're sick. And if you got green, you need to talk to the doctor about that, right? Right? It's not supposed to be green, right? We also think about green as being a color that relates to nature, and in that same sense, we also think of it as related to poisonous things, like there are some green snakes and things like that. So I have a green, this is actually a yellow green, really any green will do, but a green crayon, and then I'm gonna do my outlines with a brown, because there are also some disgusting things that are brown, if you catch my meaning. Ugh, ew. Now, because of the way you kind of turn sideways when you're really disgusted by something, we're going to make the disgusted sun narrower, but not shorter. So it's going to be, well, maybe not this big, but it's going to be bigger than, taller than anger, but not wider than anger. It's going to be more oval shaped. And I guess I'll do this one here, wherever you've got space. And the rays of light need to be wiggly, like, because of the, right? You shake around. And so the way I'm going to do that is like a little S shape, and then start at the bottom and make another S that goes out to the end. And you see how that also kind of looks like, sometimes when people do a little cartoony drawing of something stinky and then they have little wiggly lines coming up off the top of it. So it also kind of looks sort of like that, like little stinky, smelly lines coming out of it. And then once I'm done drawing a couple of these around the edges, I am going to color it with the green crayon. This one is also always fun to draw faces on, because you start making faces at each other, and you start looking at the way tongues stick out and the way one eyeball goes all small and the other one all big, and the eyebrows, and then the mouth is at an angle and twisted. And anyway, It's really fun when I teach this lesson, art on a cart, and I'm in like a kindergarten classroom or something, or a first grade or second grade classroom, and then I start making those faces and those noises, and the teachers walk out the door because they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't!" Like, I mean, the kids love it, but the teachers, they think I'm nuts because I am. Anyway, that is 4 of our 5 emotions. We've only got 1 left. And the last emotion that we need to talk about for today's lesson is fear. Fear is one of those that can kind of go a couple of different ways. I mean, it could go like really spooky scary, or it could be like kind of silly scary. But for today, we're going to keep it kind of silly, and I want you to act this out with me here. I want you to think, pretend, imagine that there's something happens that really scares you. And so, for example, like maybe what if there were zombies crawling out from under your table trying to eat your brains? I want you to notice 3 things: size, shape, and color. What happened to our size when we were freaking out, getting all scared? Well, we threw our arms way up and we got way taller, but did we get wider? No. Second, let's talk about the shape. Wiggles, right? Were those wiggles really small wiggles like when we were disgusted? No. They were big, oh my God, I'm freaking out kind of wiggles. And third, color. If you've seen the movie Inside Out, you know that fear is colored purple. But why? Like, that doesn't, what? I don't understand. Why use purple for fear? Well, that's kind of a tricky one because, like I said before, it can go a couple of different ways. And one of the things to consider, though, is what are the things that we as people are most scared of? Well, some things that people are scared of are things like bullies, punching you in the face, or water. Maybe you're afraid of drowning. Well, what color would your face turn if a bully punched you in the face? It would turn purple. What color would your face turn if you couldn't breathe because you were underwater? It would turn purple, right? There are a lot of things that hurt a lot that cause parts of your body to turn purple. Things that we'd be afraid of that turn our body purple. Also, thinking of it this way, sometimes you're so scared you can't breathe, and if you hold your breath, your face turns purple. So I'm going to be using a purple crayon to color fear in, but I'm going to use a gray marker for the outlines this time, a gray marker. Now, if you are using a set of only 8 markers, you might not have a gray marker, and in which case you can just kind of pick a different color. It doesn't really matter, just something that'll stand out against the purple. And so for the way we draw fear is going to be kind of similar to the way we drew disgust, because remember we talked about the wiggles, we talked about the taller face, because your face gets taller, and you throw your arms up in the air, and so it's going to be like an oval because it's going to be taller and skinnier. But let me show you what the differences are going to be. Okay, so I'm going to make it a taller oval to begin with, a bigger oval than disgust. And for the rays of light, instead of little smelly lines, we're going to have like big waving arms flailing around, right? So it's like a big, long, wormy shape wiggling way out there. And I love the way that this kind of intermingles with the other suns as I draw this. This one's going to go off the bottom of the page. This one's going to kind of wrap around my disgusted sun. So I love how that just kind of fills in some empty gaps. That's why I always do that one last. And then I'm going to color it purple with my purple crayon. And I'm going to do it kind of a light purple. With fear, there's different kinds of fear, right? There's fear like, oh my God, I think I'm about to die. Then there's also fear like, it's a spider. There's different levels of fear, right? And, I think if you make it too dark, then it just feels too scary, if that makes any sense. Anyway, I like to keep my picture a little bit more fun and whimsical, so that's why I'm making it lighter and not quite as dark and creepy with the fear aspect. Now, the other reason to do it lightly is so that the lines show up more. Again, just like with sadness, if I push the purple too dark, then it would be difficult to see all of the different, lines. The gray marker lines would become difficult to see. So a lighter purple works better for that. Oh, got one more to go. When you are done with all 5 of your suns, it is your choice whether to color the sky blue or not. So, all of this empty space is the sky, right? And so if you wanted to, you could get out a blue crayon and color the sky nice and neat in between, around each, in between the shapes. Don't just go over the whole thing, because that would not look good at all. That would be ugly. That would be terrible. But I'm not going to, just because that does take quite a lot of time. To take your time and do that right, it takes a lot of time. So if you want to do it and if you have the time, go for it. And if you don't, that's fine too.